This meeting is the Director of Lay Development. Reverend Okoha, good evening and welcome to Children's Desk today. He's here in the house. Reverend Okoha. Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's class.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
You are welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad to have all of us here. Earlier on, I had informed you that our host, the one in charge of Director of Lay Development, is here. So I'm glad that he is here with us. And I want to especially thank him for having all these days been supportive and being at the background, helping us to facilitate this. Thank you so much. Without wasting much of our time, I will want to call on, let me see. Let me give to Mommy Ezinakuma. Can she lead us in the opening prayer?
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Father, we want to thank you for this opportunity of being together to study. We give you praise for having brought us from wherever we went to today. We thank you for the favor we got. We thank you for our safety. We give you praise, Lord.
It seems we've lost her there. May God hear us in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Hello. 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 Hello.
Good evening, Reverend.
Yes,
I can
good
hear
evening.
you. Good evening,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the prayer. Oh, she's off outrightly. We now begin with tonight's topic. As usual, I would like us to get muted so that we don't have much background interruptions. I will speak to the slides or speak to the paper for the next, say, 40 minutes or less than that, because I already have taken 7 minutes of the time for the opening formalities. Then thereafter, we make our input. We want to receive questions, reactions, and responses. So today we are looking at setting up an effective children and teens church. Setting up an effective children and teens church. This may look for some of us as a question that we shouldn't be bothered about, most especially when we know that many of our parishes have already running have children churches and teens churches that are running. But for me, there are few areas of concern that I would like us to look into. For instance, every day we plant new mission stations. New mission stations gave birth to growth towards becoming congregations, and from congregations they become parishes. And even when you have a parish already, some parishes, if they have done it the wrong way for many years, our aim in this discussion today is to look inwardly and see how far we have fared in our children ministry. Have we done well? The way we have set it up, the way we have run it over the years. So this evening we are going to look into that. And quickly, as usual, our focus will be 4 points. We'll be looking at planning for effective children and teens ministry or church. Then two will be recruitment of human power. Number three will be structural needs of effective children and teens church. And finally, day-to-day running of children and teens church. So these are four major things we are going to look into this night. Then I'll open the floor for discussion. So tonight, please, do you mind to mute yourself? I will start by asking us a question. I will want to begin with more or less an engagement. If you're starting up new a new children church or teens church, what do you think is the first thing you need to look out for? I want three persons to give response to that, then I will flow from there. If you are starting up a new teens church or children's church, what do you think is the first thing to look out for? Okay, Abasikalu, you can go ahead.
Good evening, team.
Good evening, sir.
The first thing we need to look for, though they are closely related, first thing, committed hands. The people that we can commit these children into their hands. Secondly, the accommodation, the space. Because when you get the good hands, from the good hands, whatever curriculum you have, you know it can be easily interpreted, and it can be easily passed down to them. Then while I add the two together, that's the good hands and accommodation, is that you need, where will you separate them from the main church? Where can you keep them so that they are not distracted?
That's a perfect answer. So I won't call for a second, third opinion as I had earlier planned. Okay, I've seen a hand up. Mrs. Ezine, your hand is up. Go ahead and speak since your hand is up. Mrs. Ezine, go ahead and speak. Your hand is up.
Tell her to unmute herself and speak.
Please unmute yourself and speak.
Sorry, I'm very sorry. I buy the idea he has given us. Yes,
Okay.
what you really need is what he has mentioned. But I just go further to say the resource persons you want to employ must be people that have a vision towards what you want to establish. They must equally have a passion for it. So before you can go ahead. Thank you, sir.
That's the answers you've given. For me, it's the perfect answer. And this for me begins is the trust of this paper. The major emphasis is the issue of the manpower. Many a times our parishes will feel like why we are not running children ministries because we don't have a space. Let me tell you, once you're able to identify people who have passion for it, who are there, whatever space that is available can be used. The biggest challenge is not about creating, even if you have a 5-story building that is designated as children church or teens church, if there are no people, manpower to drive it, then that will not be a children church. You can't gather our children and keep them in the hands of someone who you don't trust in terms of his faith commitment, in terms of his or her being born again. Then that would be a very big disaster. So today we are going to discuss these things in detail. Like I have said, we'll begin with planning for effective children and teens ministry. The plan should detail the following: the leadership team. The first thing to think about is the leadership team. If there is any way we are planning for children ministry or children church, the first thing is who is going to spearhead it. It's not about the children now, they are there already, but the question is who is going to be their teacher. It will be more disastrous to gather teachers, children, and put them in the hands of someone who does not know his or her left and right. So who doesn't understand the faith? A novice shouldn't lead our children church. So the leadership is the key. You must have a leader who will drive the vision, who will be able to point people to where they are going to. And that is the first thing you need to plan. In the plan, who is going to lead? Who do we commit these children into his or her hands? And then the next thing is the curriculum and content of what is to be taught. So, what are we going to teach them? That is where I have always had troubles with our church. After this webinars we are having, I'm hoping that by God's grace, when we meet this weekend as a desk, we are going to do a memo to the office. We want to know who and who are the coordinators of children at the various parishes, because these are key issues. We can't continue to have people who have been in the hem of affairs of our children and we don't know them. So the leadership is key. The second thing is the curriculum. We need to really think about the content. Unfortunately, let me say this to us: in many parishes, even when the desk gives content in terms of giver resources, some of us will abandon it outrightly, and you go to places. One of my desk officers in the synod level told me she went to a place and the reports, what she saw, people just were busy telling stories, endless stories without focus. And this is not good for effective children ministry. The other thing is the space and the facilities needed for the children and teens church. Is there a space? Like I've said to you, two things are first. Issue of space can come in, but as a third priority. But the first priority will be leadership. The second priority will be the content, and the third priority will be the issue of space and facilities needed for the children and teens church. And then the fourth should be issue of funding. When you have put these things into place, you now begin to think, if you see this is the place, now you need to think about how do we fund it? How do we fund children and teens ministry? There must be a clear-cut way of funding it. Like one of the things I will suggest to us is that as parishes, you can go for patrons at the parish levels. Look for people who are passionate about children matters. Call them patrons. If you have 10 patrons, for instance, who are willing to support the activities of children in the parish, if they give you, say, 5,000 naira every year, that is 50,000 naira. If you have more than that, if you have 10 of them who give you 50,000, that's 500. So you can go for patrons in terms of funding the program. So things ministry and children ministry, the priority must be clear. In your planning, the leadership first. Secondly, the content of what is to be taught. Thirdly, the issue of the space can come in. And fourthly, the funding. So these are the things you must put into plan. And the last issue to think about is how do you mainstream and communicate the activities of the children teens ministry to parents and the session. And this is one way I feel we are not doing well in many of our parishes. Sometimes you only work in isolation. There is little or no communication between the children ministry and the session, and then sometimes there is no communication between children ministry and the parish. So these communication gaps make it difficult for even or for us to even raise support. So when there is no communication between the children, the members in the church, the many a times this is even because in many cases the teachers in the children unit get into the children hall and they stay for the whole day. They don't interact with any other person apart from the children. So nobody knows what they need. No one knows what they do. There are many people who don't even know exactly the sacrifices, the efforts put in the children ministry and the teens church. So we must, in our planning, we must find a way of disseminating information, of linking with the parish, session, reporting. Let me, if I just ask us this question, when last did your own parish children give a report to the session? You may be shocked that in many cases, not every children unit or teens church report that way to session. So these are some of the things we need to do. Then the next thing is issue of the recruitment of manpower. Like I told you, the core issue when you are setting up a children church, the core issue is the issue of the human resource. Who is going to take care of the children? So how do you recruit them? So this evening I'll just basically reflect on some of the characteristics of people if we must make it that are needed to be in the children unit. And one of the characteristics is that the person must have a personal relationship with Jesus. The issue of personal relationship with Jesus is key. Anyone who must serve in this capacity must be someone who has a proven character, who must demonstrate his or her personal relationship. So it's no longer about getting people from anywhere just because you are looking for manpower. No, 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 no. We must look for people who have been discipled, who have a personal relationship. It's not people who will tell you 1950 we were. No, it must be a personal living relationship with Jesus. The person must be in agreement with the core beliefs of our church. This for me is a critical area of concern. A time is coming, I'll do a survey across board, possibly as we grow, to find out how many of our teachers understand what it means to be Presbyterians, our core values, our core beliefs as a church. What do we believe? Because if you carry someone who doesn't even know what Presbyterians believe, you ask him, why do we baptize infants? What do you mean by sovereignty of God? He doesn't understand what it means to be reformed. Then it becomes difficult when you take the person as a teacher to teach our children about our faith. It becomes a very big problem for us. So if you are recruiting someone to teach our children, you must make sure that the person agrees with the core beliefs of our church. Take, for instance, someone who doesn't believe in infant baptism shouldn't teach our children. Someone who doesn't believe in the sovereignty of God shouldn't teach our children. Someone who doesn't believe in Trinity shouldn't teach our children, even though he can be eloquent in speech. But because these are our core beliefs and he doesn't believe in them, anyone who doesn't believe in the priesthood of all believers shouldn't teach our children. So these belief systems that we have upheld as Presbyterians and Reformed, anyone who does not agree with them should not be allowed to teach our children. Then the third is complete a children's ministries volunteer application form. This is non-existent in many of our parishes. I'm aware, so don't think I'm not aware. I'm not speaking from this, but these are some of things we need to start thinking about. In our world, like as we are wrapping up to next Saturday, we are going to deal with issue of safety and security in children ministry because our world is changing. You can't just pick someone who has attended your church for 6 weeks or even 2 weeks and he says, I love children. I love to talk to children. He enters to the children's church and sing one song and they are all laughing. You bring him in as a teacher. The person should be asked to fill children's ministries volunteer form. That form will give details of his permanent address, and then he will have two referees from the church. My recommendation would be that two elders, his own district elder, someone who is not an active member in a district, should not head our children's unit, should not be even around the children's unit, because it will be it will be very shocking any day calamity strikes that you find out that a criminal, like you just remember this week, people disguise themselves and claim they were bishops. So we are living in such a state where someone can come in and say, I'm a pastor. It's just that my church is not around that located. Can I be allowed? And he sings well, he preaches well, without knowing that that person is not a child of God. The person must be loyal to the pastors and leaders of the church. Loyalty is key. It's not someone who will start fighting with the elder in charge or other teachers or even the minister in charge. The thing I have found out, I speak to you like someone who has experience, mostly within my last 1 year in office now. Some places you find out that there is a disconnect between the teachers in the parish in some places and then the minister in charge. In some places, they just see the ministry of children as a separate unit that has nothing to do with the main church. So there's a sign of disloyalty. Be faithful to your assigned position. Faithfulness to your assigned position. If you have been assigned to teach the pre the toddlers, be faithful to it. If it is to teens, be faithful to it. If it is to middle-aged children, be faithful. Don't envy anybody or try to sabotage any other person. So we need to be faithful. Attend all meetings and workshops. This one, many of us are guilty. I remember going to one of I will mention the parish. The minister complained bitterly to me recently. He spent money, brought in trainers, trainers, and the workshop was to be attended by the teachers, but they were not there. He felt so discouraged. He felt so bad. So we need to attend all meetings and workshops. We must be faithful to regular church services. This one is important. Some of us, once it is not children, we are not in church. You only attend children ministry services, and at the end of the evening midweek, you will not be there. It's a bad practice. We need to check and change from now onwards. Find a substitute replacement if you will not be there. If you're not going to be in church, be able to make arrangement for someone to stand in for you. I'll tell you why this is important. And in doing this, make sure that the elder in charge or the coordinator be aware of it. Don't just walk away and say if he comes, he doesn't. If he doesn't see me now, he will make an alternative arrangement, or he himself will take it, or they will combine the classes. No, if you're not going to be there, let they be on the no. Be in your assigned room and ready for kids 30 minutes before the starting time. We must be there before starting times. Let me tell you, I was in a school and the parents were bringing children to their Sunday school and there was no teacher to receive them. And I was not even, they didn't know me. I was just on a visit. And I just felt, imagine parents dropped them and went to the other side and nobody was there. If any stranger who is a kidnapper enters, it's easy to cut away with these children under our care. So it's always good to be there 30 minutes before the children arrive. Be neat in your appearance. Very important. Teachers, we need to be neat. We need to dress in such a way that our children will have something to emulate from us. As much as we can, we need to iron our clothes, be corporate on the days we need to be corporate, and just look smart and nice. Then give 30 days notice when resigning your positions. I'm aware that these are sounding too strange to us, but when we come out with our handbook, they will be there enshrined in the handbook we are working on. You need to give 30 days notice. It's not when you know, you knew it in your head that by August, you will no longer be teaching. But what you have chosen to do is just relax your mind and say nobody is it not by next Sunday I'll just tell them that I will not be in church next other Sunday. Please, If you are going to be away, let them know, let the coordinator know or the other in charge know, so that they can make arrangements. Your good efforts can be scattered if you just leave them without notice, so that they can make arrangement for a substitute. They can start advertising for vacancies, appealing to people. They can start preparing their mind to make the necessary adjustments, not just on Sunday morning, just call and say, sorry, I've traveled, I'm no longer in you. No, 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 no. That will not be a good this thing. The other issues are show good example to the children, agree to undertake a background check. This is very important. Agree to undertake a background check. We need to submit ourselves to background check. This is part of the memo we'll be sending soon, that all the teachers in our parishes, they need to undergo background check. Critical indeed, background check. Background check in the sense that we need to know who is teaching our children. There should be a form. There should be a history. We should know who you are, where you are, what have you gone to prison before? Why did you go to prison? Let me tell us this. Children belong to what we classify as vulnerable people. In the world, we have vulnerable people. People who are vulnerable are people who are defenseless, who cannot fight for themselves, people who need a care and guidance. So children generally belong to the vulnerable class. You can hurt them. They are very fragile set of people. So
Mhm.
when working with them, the United Nations generally has asked that everyone who works with children should undergo background checks, so that
Mhm.
we know who you are. Who are you? Are you just a person who is disguising to be a
Mhm.
good person? They need to know.
Mhm.
And then for us who are in the churches, for us in the national, I don't relate with children on day-to-day basis, but you are there. Go back, talk to your coordinator if it's not here. Let there be a file. Please, can you mute yourself? I can hear background noise rather. Um, let's go back, create a file. Let's know who and who are in our various units. Let's know where are they from, who are they, what are the occupations. Because when we don't know these things, these background checks, have there been any notice of accusation of rape around them, or have they been violating children or even adults? Because someone who violates adults has a tendency of violating children. The most important thing is this: do they have crisis in their own marriages? Some people who have crisis in their marriage, either they are victimizing their spouses, and you allow them to train our children. For me, I will say to you, it's a very bad approach to raising our children. So these are things we need to do when recruiting people for children ministry. Then the other thing which I have mentioned earlier is issue of the structural needs for effective children and teens church. I know many of us will be just like, give us a big hall with AC, with DC, with PA, public address system. All these things are component of structural needs for effective um, children and teens church. But more to that, there should be a conducive learning environment, a good stout room with AC, with good chairs, with fans, are not just enough to be described as conducive learning environment. By definition, a conducive learning environment is a platform, look at my definition here, devoid of both physical intimidation and emotional frustration, which allows for a free exchange of ideas. A conducive learning environment is a platform devoid of both physical intimidation and emotional frustration. You can be in a very well air-conditioned hall with nice cruisy chairs and still not be having a conducive environment. A situation whereby the safety of lives of our children cannot be fully guaranteed. Learning is always more effective when it is carried out within a conducive learning environment where the safety of the lives of our children can be fully granted. There is proper illumination and ventilation. Very important. Illumination and ventilation are key. In many cases, we keep our children where the bulbs have died and no one cares. The windows are just not there, because they are children. There are no sufficient ventilation. The windows, only one window to a very big hall. And they are children, they can manage. What do they know? When they grow up, that is a very bad approach. Illumination and ventilation, there are enough seats for all the children to sit down comfortably. Give them seat to sit down. There is no intimidation and emotional frustration. You don't intimidate them. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. You're making noise. Shut up, shut up. Oh yeah, sit down there, sit down there. You are simply intimidating them. When you speak to them this way, you kill their spirit, you kill their passion. This intimidation will not allow them to make meaningful contributions in the class. And then the voice of every child is heard and respected. I was speaking last week and I told you about respecting people's opinion. Let me tell you, I have, by God's grace, attended local and international conferences. And one of the things I love is when people's views are respected. In the WCC, what Council of Churches Conference, even if you say nonsense, the person will just tell you, yeah, that's good. That's your view about this. I think, well, it depends on how you are looking at it. But, well, others have always seen it this way. Because you are seeing it from your own point of view, others have seen it this way, simply means that your view is not the popular view. So it doesn't call for shouting down at people and disrespecting their opinions. The dignity of the child is not abused. The dignity, I will be rushing now because I just see the time is moving, but I'll give the floor in case any of them you want us to discuss further. We can do that. There are enough teaching aids to communicate the faith to the children. Teaching aids are there. There is a good public address system to ease the teachers from shouting, which we can't deny that. There is enough space to separate the children into different classes depending on their age. Now, the next I will deal with now is the whole issue of daily running of children and things church. This will be the last thing to discuss, then I'll throw the floor open for conversation. Daily running of children and things church. What do we do daily? Before each class, during each class, and after each class. These are three things we need to do. Things to do before each class, things to do during the class, things to do after each class. Now, before each class, all teachers must report 30 minutes before the scheduled time. Each teacher should report 30 minutes. You should be in class 30 minutes before the appointed time. We should not be late. I've explained this before. Teachers should meet and pray before class begins. Teachers are supposed to be there, hold your hands, pray, so that by the time the children come, you have already prayed as teachers, and everyone now moves to his or her class. Now, check your room prior to children's arrival for any hazardous items. No hot drink items in rooms for any reason. You should check the places, check the cupboards, check the lockers, check if you are in a place where there are lockers, check around. Are there hazardous things? Check if the nails in the chairs have pulled out. So you need to just check so that the place is safe for the children. These have to be done before they arrive. Set up your classroom supplies, decorations, etc. prior to the arrival of children. Disinfect all toys, diaper changing surfaces, equipment, etc. as required. You need to disinfect. After they have used it last time, there could be some infections. Remember that these children, some of them, they can just be putting their hands in their mouth. Some of them, they may be chewing biscuit, drop it on the table, and they pick it and put it into their mouth. So there is need for us to disinfect the place to make sure that the place is clean enough for the hygienic, for them to maintain standard hygiene. The other point is greet children and parents as they are signing in. Greet children and parents. I want us to know that there is need for us now to have a sign-in logbook. Sign in as students enter. There should be a space, the sign, so that you know that this child has entered. And at the point his parents come to take him out, we should also have a provision where the parents sign off that they have taken this child out of our care. I'm saying this because daily the nation Nigeria is turning to something else. So the signing in and signing off mechanism protect us from someone saying, I dropped him here, and we begin to argue, no, I didn't see the child. I brought him. If we are not responsible, you are not caring enough. We can avoid this kind of argument by having a sign in and sign off mechanism that any child that comes in, you tick for him, and at the end of the day you take him out as having signed off and he's been with the parents. Do not accept children into the classroom with fever or other illness. If a child is brought in as he's coming with the parents and you notice that he's having some illnesses, the best is not to place him among the teachers, other children, because some illnesses can be contagious in that sense. Yeah. Now, wear your name tag. We need to get there, and I think I'm done with even next week. This thing, the name tag. We should devise a way of having a name tag within parishes so that we know who is who with the minister's signature behind, so that if an impersonator, this issue of impersonation is something we have seen. Initially, I thought it was something I was only the one seeing, but you can see it on Wednesday. Tinubu and his men impersonated bishops, and you can see it's possible that they can impersonate coming to your children just with their Bible, and you don't know that these persons are not this thing. So that if there is a class going on and the church service is on, the only people that are allowed to move out of the church hall with children should be children teachers. If the security people find out, or boys brigade on duty find out anybody with a child loitering around other than a teacher on a tag, the person should be treated as a suspect. And then make sure you know all safety procedures and evacuation routes, and follow all policies and procedures as outlined in the manual. The manual, this I have just extracted from the manual we are working on for our from the desk. The whole issue I'm saying is there could be a crisis. This is part of what Nigeria is not doing. Every building, there is always a room for evacuation in case there's fire outbreak or there is an emergency. You should be able to follow the stated out routes to get that done, and done nicely. I will run a bit because time is, I have only 5 minutes to go. During each class, I'll just read through the notes. Be intentional about building relationships with children in your class or group. Be intentional about it. Ministry is about relationship. Christ came to die because of relationship. Reconciliation is just relationship. He bring he brought the relationship that was broken between God and man. He restored us. Now make sure every child is properly cared for and accounted for at all times. So you must keep a track record of the number of children you have in your care. Know them. If I ask you as a teacher, you should give me the logbook. Anytime coming down, so I'm not very sure of coming for tour research new within the time. And that enter into your parish, I'd like to know your logbooks to find out how many children are in each class per Sunday, so that it will be easier for us to account for decreasing or not increasing, so that we can always know these things. Never leave a child alone for any reason. No child should be wandering alone outside without adult supervision. Always reflect God's love and character. Set examples for the children to follow. Participate in class activities like singing, stories, etc. Don't just fold your hands when they are singing and just feel like that's their children. They have to do it. I've done my own when I was a child. You are a children teacher, and you need to behave as a child when you are with them. Sing with them. Enjoy their music. Enjoy their singing. Enjoy their dancing. Children are a gift from God. Enjoy your time with them. I've said this. Report any sign of negligence or neglect or abuse to the elder in charge. This day, I'll say this again. don't assume that uncle is right. You may be shocked that the abuses the children receive are from some of our uncles and aunties. If an auntie in the same unit with you is abusing a child, report it to the elder in charge, so that we can't tolerate this. Report it so that it can be looked into. I will move to the last slide so that you can come in for your question. 3 minutes to go. Put all supplies after each class. Put all supplies, toys, equipment in the proper containers. Make sure it is closed before you leave. Turn in all sign in out sheets to the elder in charge. The signing sheet I've told you, there should be someone who custodies it. So when you are done at the end of the day, hand them over to the right person. Put all trash in trash cans and clean up your area before leaving. Don't just leave the whole place untidy. When you are done, put in all the trashes in the trash cans and clean up the place. Wipe down all tables that are soiled from snacks or crafts. Make sure that all the places that are soiled, even the place you change the diapers, let them be disinfected, and let every equipment that is used be disinfected. Finally, teachers should take a review of the a review. What were the challenges encountered? What were the peculiarities? What do you observe about the children? It could be that you observed a child's behavior and he needs attention, and you feel you are not having the answers the child needs. By the time we meet as teachers in a church, a congregation, we can
It's like there's network challenge. You are not hearing you clearly again.
We have lost him. He will be back shortly.
Okay, that's
Yes, I
network.
think
And
he'll be back shortly.
we've
We
lost
lost him.
the network. Yeah, we lost the network. Oh, not him. Oh. This is so educative. The good direction.
Can't hear you, sir.
Reverend, can you check your network? Can you check your audio? We are no more hearing you clearly, please.
He's no longer on the platform. We lost him to network challenge.
He's trying to reconnect. I've spoken with him. He's trying to reconnect.
Hello? Is anybody here?
Yeah, I'm still
Yes, we
here.
are still here. We are here.
We are still here.
We are
I wait
waiting.
for